BBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. I'm back in London, where it is hot. East coast of America was much cooler than this, I can tell you. And I think we're going to have one or two hot and bothered callers this evening, because the Prime Minister, our esteemed Prime Minister, has today given a written statement to the House of Commons talking about the Brexit process, where she says, "I will lead the negotiations with the European Union, with my Secretary of State for exiting the European Union deputising on my behalf." She says she set out a new machinery for government. And Raab, having just taken this position following the resignation of David Davis, now appears to be completely and utterly sidelined. Well, he tried to stand up for himself. This is what he told MPs earlier on today.
The statement that the Prime Minister's put out today makes crystal clear she is in charge of the negotiations. I deputise for her, and we very much welcome the excellent advice we get. These arrangements, as we move into the final phase of the negotiations up until October, are meant to make sure we've got the most effective team. But as I said, one team, one chain of command, and that's the way we'll get the best deal.
Yeah, I'm sure. He was asked earlier about this, and he said, "The Prime Minister suggested it to me." That's what he told the committee earlier on, and that to me says it all. How on earth can you accept the job when within a week you've been demoted to effectively being the bag carrier? Now, something about this is wrong. I'll tell you what's wrong. When Theresa May, in the wake of the referendum, launched her leadership bid, she was explicit about how we would negotiate our withdrawal and who would do it. This is what she said in June 2016.
"I will therefore create a new government department responsible for conducting Britain's negotiation with the EU and for supporting the rest of Whitehall in its European work. That department will be led by a senior Secretary of State, and I will make sure that the position is taken by a Member of Parliament who campaigned for Britain to leave the EU."
So she's completely gone back on her word. She made it clear the Brexit negotiations would be led by a Brexiteer, and now she's put herself in charge. Is she, you're thinking, is she a convert? Is she now perhaps a Brexiteer? Well, remember, she did an interview on LBC with Ian Dale a few months ago. This is how it went.
If there was a Brexit vote now, would you vote Brexit? Because you voted Remain in the referendum. Have you changed your mind?
Well, I don't answer hypothetical questions, but I voted Remain. I voted Remain for good reasons at the time, but circumstances move on. I mean, I think the important thing now is that I think we should all be focused on delivering Brexit.
Absolutely.
And delivering the best deal. But you're asking me to say, how would I vote in a vote now against a different background, a different international background, a different economic background, potentially?
You can't tell me that you would vote leave now. I mean, Jeremy Hunt, when I interviewed him at the conference, he said he voted Remain in the referendum. He's the chief advocate of Remain. He said now he would vote for Brexit because he says George Osborne's economic predictions did not come true, and he said that he was fed up with the belligerent attitude of the European Commission. Now, if he says he could change his mind, I don't quite understand why you can't, seeing as you are Prime Minister leading us into Brexit.
Yes, and I'm Prime Minister ensuring that I'm going to deliver Brexit for the British people.
But
you can't tell me that you would now vote leave in a referendum.
Because I think, Ian, when you come, I could sit here and I could say, I'd still vote Remain or I'd vote Leave, just to give you an answer to that question. I'm being open and honest with you. What I did last time round was I looked at everything and came to a judgment, and I'd do exactly the same this time round. But we're not having another referendum, and that's absolutely crucial.
Oh, it's painful, it's embarrassing, it's cringe-making. And this is our Prime Minister. But the one thing she would not do, absolutely would not do, in that interview, despite being given ample opportunity by Ian Dale, is she would not say that she would now vote to leave. She would not say that she's now a leaver, merely that she's carrying out the will of the people. Well, she is now in charge. And if that wasn't bad enough, if you're Brexiteers listening to this feeling pretty hot and bothered, try this. Sky News released this earlier. Sky News understands that ministers will scrap the European Communities Act, but save its effect for the transition period. And this will be done to ensure that EU law continues to apply to the UK during the proposed 19 months for this transition. All of it means that the government will now be forced to amend the Brexit legislation, the EU Withdrawal Act. And with this consistent game of smoke and mirrors, you begin to ask whether actually we're even leaving at all. So, we have a Remainer officially in charge of the Brexit negotiations. Are you okay with that? And if you think, Nigel, don't be so flustered. She's wonderful. She really does believe in Brexit despite everything. Call me on 0345 6060 973. Or if you think this means Brexit will get even further watered down and perhaps be almost unrecognisable from what people voted for, that in fact this sign may well be the ultimate betrayal, then please text to 84850. And maybe, like me, you're thinking, isn't it interesting? Today's the day the MPs went off on holiday. The recess starts today for 6 weeks. They saved this announcement up for everyone to go off on recess so they wouldn't be plotting in tea rooms against her. And if, like me, you think maybe actually what those MPs need to do is to get concerted and organised and get rid of her, then tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. Watch us on Facebook. Comment there too. And my first caller this evening on this subject, or whether this is okay, is calling all the way from Hong Kong. He's a new caller to the show. His name is Charles. Good evening, Charles.
Can I just please say, Nigel, that I have been listening to your comments and your views on Brexit and what we're trying to do with the country for a very long time, and it's a pleasure to now be online.
Well, thank you very much for that. And what time of the day is it in Hong Kong?
It's coming up for 2:15 in the morning, and I've been waiting up this. This is a pleasure to be online.
You've stayed up to call at 0345 6060 973, yeah?
Look, I have not stayed up for a very long time because I thought that Theresa May was looking after Brexit, but quite clearly now she's completely betraying Brexit, and so this is the time to start to take action. So that's why I'm on the call.
Okay, so so clearly you are not okay with her, as she has today, taken charge of the process. What do you think, Charles, needs to happen?
Well, the big problem that we have here is that within the Conservative Party, we have it basically comes down now to the Conservative Party, because there are a lot of people, well, you've got a problem because the real grandees within the party who have been supporting May, who promised that there was going to be a position for go, that they would sort of stand aside and wait to see that there was going to be a deliverance of this rubbish Brexit, and that what we would have to swallow as the electorate was this rubbish Brexit that was contrived and totally and utterly wrong. If you look at what the lawyers of Leavers, what Martin Howe QC,
yeah, I know the guy.
Yeah, no, what he's put together as a description of what actually the Leave vote means. It's not even Brexit. It is the worst of all worlds. It's a shite Brexit.
I think we'll do without that word, Charles. But Charles, so why do the Tory MPs not recognise, and I've been saying on this show, and if you listen for a long, long time, that if she stays as PM, we will not get a decent Brexit. Why do the Tory MPs not stand up, hand him a letters, and have a vote of confidence in her?
Because it's not about the people. It's not about Brexit. This is about the party. This is about...
Well, to hell with the party. Doesn't Brexit matter more than the party?
Of course it does, Nigel. You know, you and I have been in contact about this for a long, long time, and I'm adamant that this is bigger than the party. This is about the country. This is about independence. It's about getting away from Europe.
Yeah. No, well, Charles, listen, your passion, fantastic. Just very quickly, Charles, is Brexit sort of heavy on the discussion amongst the expat community out there?
Well, look, I mean, it's almost a non-event because it's ridiculous. Because the world is waiting for Britain to reach out and stride out into the. We've got so many opportunities.
I think, Charles, the world's losing patience with us. Charles, I'm going to let you go and run to Nick, who's calling from Croydon. Hi, Nick. Good evening.
Hello, Nigel. Evening to you. Normally I agree with you, but on this one, I can't help thinking you've got it wrong. Of course, the Prime Minister's in charge of the EU, the leaving. She's in charge of the National Health Service. She's in charge of the education. She's in charge of everything else.
Yeah, but she doesn't negotiate. She doesn't negotiate with the fire union. She doesn't negotiate with the nurses. She allows her Secretary of State to do that. And Nick, my problem is she explicitly, when she was putting herself up to become Prime Minister, said that this will be led by somebody who has campaigned for the Leave vote. She's broken her promise, Nick.
She said the department would be led by a Brexiteer, which it has been. She has made no bones about her views, and I think, frankly, given the numbers in of the House of Commons, she's done pretty well. There's nothing really. I read through the Chequers Agreement.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in there which is a real die-in-a-ditch issue. They're all things which I think, given you can never get everything you want in any deal, it's okay. And there's scope for a future change.
Yes.
Coming down the line.
Jam tomorrow. It'll be jam tomorrow, everybody. Nothing to worry about. I just don't have the confidence, Nick, in it. But okay, you make the point that overall, she is the boss. But I think, Nick, she made it very, very clear this was delegated authority. Nick, I thank you for your opinion. Nick thinks it's fine. And if any of you did hear a bad word that Charles used, I am sorry about that. We want strong opinions here on LBC. We want people that agree with me, or we want people that disagree with me, but we need to keep it clean. We are way, way, way before the watershed. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive on LBC, and it's now 7:15. So who's in charge of the Brexit negotiations? Is it Dominic Raab? Well, we thought it was until today, but Mrs May's made it very clear that she's in charge now of the negotiations. But actually, folks, it isn't even her. No. The person really in charge is a bloke called Ollie Robbins. You've never voted for him. You never will be able to vote for him. He is a civil servant. He's the guy taking the lead. And today, he sat before the committee for exiting the European Union. Jacob Rees-Mogg took the opportunity to ask him about David Davis's claim that he had been sidelined.
I mean, as I tried to explain earlier, and I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, but the closest colleagues I've had in this job have been colleagues at the Department for Exiting the European Union, and they were throughout this process.
But they've said they didn't know. The former Secretary of State has said that he didn't know. So, are you saying that he is misinforming us?
No, I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm telling you what I can tell you about the process, which is that it was a close and collaborative one.
Thank you very much. I think that's extremely helpful. But it is worrying that the authority that changed today hadn't happened then, and that things were going on that the department meant to be in charge of it was unaware of. I attribute no blame to you at all, because you are answerable to the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Yes, I think we can tell how Jacob Rees-Mogg feels about the Prime Minister's performance. He does it in a very polite and sometimes indirect way, but he is not very happy with her. Sean takes the view on Facebook that May is doing a brilliant job. She'll get us a deal that saves jobs and employment. Right, Sean. What's she going to do for the fishing industry? What's she going to do for expanding trade deals across the world? They're the kind of things that I'm worried about. What she might do, Sean, is she might keep us in exactly the same position we are now. And what Brexiteers had hoped for was something a little bit better. Nigel, Dominic Raab has found out, like David Davis, that he effectively has a non-job, says Graham. Well, surely, Graham, he could have examined that before he took it, because he does say, the Prime Minister suggested to me. I mean, it's pathetic, really, isn't it? I wonder what Christine from Dagenham, who's a new caller of this show, thinks. Christine, hi.
Hello.
Well, welcome. Are you happy?
I'm talking to you.
Are you? Well, you are. Are you cheering, Christine, that Mrs May is now leading the Brexit negotiations?
I just can't believe it. I've only just found out from your station that she's doing the negotiations. Are you having a laugh? It's laughable, isn't it?
No, I can't laugh, Christine. It's too serious and I'm too hot and bothered. It's awful, isn't it?
Well, it's a shame you can't do it, Nigel Farage, to be quite honest with you. I'd love you to do it. But I think Jacob Rees-Mogg should do it.
Yeah, well...
You should put their letters in and get her down. Put her down and get someone else to do it.
Well, I have to say, my confidence in her is at rock bottom. Do you think, Christine, like I do, that the Tory party should simply get rid of her as leader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, straight away. Now. They've got to do it now.
Got to do it now. Crack on. Do it now. Christine, thank you very much for your call, Christine. Strong passions there from Dagenham. She's not happy at all. How does Mark, a new caller from Liverpool, feel about this? Hi, Mark.
Hi, Nigel. I don't agree with you on much, but I disagree with you on this. I don't think this Ollie Robinson's in charge. I think the European Union's in charge.
Okay. So we're going higher up the food chain. Well, you may well be right, Mark, that Ollie Robbins is taking instructions from Monsieur Barnier. Yeah, that may well be right.
I think that the European Union is rotten to its core, and I think it's actually quite evil. I don't think they mean to be evil. I don't think Adolf Hitler meant to be evil, but he turned out to be an evil person.
Yeah, I don't think comparisons with Hitler are ever useful in any debate, Mark. But my view on the Union is that it started off with the best of intentions after World War II to get the French and Germans to break bread together, which after 3 wars in 70 years made quite a lot of sense. But it now, Mark, is becoming not just undemocratic, it's becoming anti-democratic, authoritarian, and I won't use the word evil, but it's very dangerous, Mark. I'd certainly say that.
I have to say, I listened to Donald Trump tonight, and everything that he said, he was talked up his country, the amount of money that's gone into the country, they're on a record low unemployment. By the way, I started listening to it on CNN, and they came off of it. So I had to go on YouTube and watch it live, and I'd recommend to your viewers to watch it.
Fake news, as he calls them, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it's absolutely, what a fantastic speech. And I wish we had somebody here making those speeches to the nation. I listened to Theresa May up in the northeast the other day, and it was just cringe-worthy. Bring on Jacob Rees-Mogg. Jacob, this is your time. Please come and save us.
So are you saying to me, Mark,
this is all a plan?
Are you saying to me that when the Prime Minister says Brexit means Brexit, we're taking back control of our laws, borders and money, that you don't believe her?
I believed it like you did 12 months ago at the Lancaster House speech?
Yeah, it was 18 months ago, the Lancaster House speech, and I wanted to believe her, Mark. I really wanted to believe her. But I now think she has absolutely no qualms about saying one thing and doing quite another. Mark, I thank you for your call. More passion there from Mark. Paul is a new caller from Milton Keynes. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
I'm all right. So are you okay with May?
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's quite frankly embarrassing, Nigel, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is. Why do you find it embarrassing, Paul?
Well, we've got the whole eyes of the world looking to see how we're doing. We're meant to be an ambassador for all these other countries that have had enough of the tyranny of the EU. And they're probably watching us thinking, oh, sod that, we're not going to go for all that faffing around. I mean, you said she was going to deliver us out of Brexit. I doubt she could deliver a Domino's pizza, to be honest with you. And, I mean, I've seen some of your speeches in the EU, and I have to say, absolutely fantastic, but there's no way I could see Theresa May stood in front of Junkers or whoever else may be the unelected spokesperson for them at the time and deliver with confidence what we need her to do. And part of me is thinking that all this hard work that yourself and everybody else has put in on the Brexiteer camp is just a complete waste of time. We might as well not have bothered, and that's a shame.
I don't think it is a waste of time, Paul, because I actually think that those people out there that thought about it, made their minds up, voted for Brexit, did it very much with their hearts. Those people are still out there, and at some point they will get an opportunity to express their opinion. Thank you. Shaz on Facebook says, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. One day I'm optimistic, the next in despair. I went through that period, Shaz, when I was still trying to believe that she was a truthful human being, telling us what she would do. But I'm afraid, Shaz, you can see it's all slippage, concession after concession. Good evening, Nigel. Mrs. May wants to personally take control of the Brexit negotiations. That way she can really stuff things up, says BB by text. Mrs. May taking control. What could possibly go wrong? I hear the champagne corks popping all over Brussels, says Gordon from Minehead. Gosh, they'll have to prop up Juncker again, won't they? He was struggling on his pins a bit last week, wasn't he, at that summit? Jacqueline is a new caller from Worthing. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hello, Nigel. Hello.
Hello. Now, are you okay with Mrs May, Jacqueline? Tell me, it's all going to work out wonderfully.
No, I feel completely betrayed. And when I talk to my friends and my family, they all feel exactly the same. And this announcement today, I think, is a further nail in the coffin. My theory on this is that Dominic Raab, started to find his way. He announced that we might withhold that money back. And I think they had an absolute panic. And that's why they made the announcement to seize it back from him, because I think she thought that he would just do what she wanted. That's where I think it's coming from.
Well, you may be right, and Jacqueline, but why? I mean, I get a message here, Jacqueline, on Facebook. Richard says Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg names keep coming up. One of them should call a leadership challenge. Why will nobody, Jacqueline? Why will nobody, even Boris in his resignation speech? Why will nobody say this woman is not up to it? She needs to go. Why won't they do it, Jacqueline?
I don't know. I just think the country is absolutely crying out for leadership. We've got no good opposition. We need somebody to come up. If you ask me, I think Gove is the best person. I know that he's blotted his copybook in the past, but I think he's the most intelligent. I think he's the most devious, and I think he's the person that could really sort of wrench a good deal out. But I can't see it.
You've got to be devious to negotiate with those EU officials, eh?
Well, what are we up against? They must be absolutely laughing their socks off at the moment.
Yes,
we need a new leader. We need a new leader. Everybody's saying it.
Yeah, no, and that's what they're all saying in Worthing. And Worthing, of course, quite a strong Conservative area. Does Mrs May understand how much support she's losing out there?
I don't. She can't do, can she? She needs to be in some sort of bubble. I really don't understand. Everybody I speak to feels the same at the moment. So, step up, Gove or somebody and do something. Yeah. Otherwise, I think the whole thing's going to implode. And I really think we're going to have riots and things because I can't see how it's going to get resolved.
Well, I mean, we did hear this comment from an executive of Amazon saying he thought there could be riots if there was a no-deal Brexit. But you think there could be riots if Brexit's not delivered?
There will be, because people feel really, really strongly that they've been lied to. Most of us believe in a democracy, but at the moment it's looking very hollow.
Jacqueline, I think you're right. I think people are very, very upset and angry indeed. Thank you for your call. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's now 7:30 and time for the news with Thomas Watts. So Theresa May is going to run the Brexit negotiations. Dominic Raab has been reduced to carrying the bags, and we're all supposed to be happy, despite the fact she told us very clearly, just before she became Prime Minister, that somebody who'd campaigned for Brexit would lead the charge. Hey, why should we believe a word that she says? But the weather, of course, is an even bigger talking point. Heatwave alert issued yesterday by the Met Office, and we're talking about temperatures being above 30, up in the high 80s Fahrenheit for the next 2 or 3 days. And Public Health England urged Britons to do their best to stay out of the sun until the heat wave is over, especially between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Isn't that great? We have a publicly funded Quango telling us not to go out in the sun and enjoy ourselves. Fabulous response from Malcolm Bell, Chief Executive of Visit Cornwall, who called the warning nanny state with the biggest capital N you could possibly ever print. Well, I have to say, absolutely agree with that. It isn't particularly practical. Yeah, sure, people should be sensible. They should wear hats, use sun cream. I get all of that. But to tell them to stay out of the sun is absolutely crazy. It is a very long, dry spell. 45 days now since it rained up in Bury St Edmunds, and speculation whether we'll beat the all-time high of 38.5, which was recorded in Faversham in Kent back in 2003. It does look like the nanny state, totally out of control, although during that heat wave in 2003, in France, 11,000 people died in that heat wave. So, maybe public bodies do have a responsibility to warn us about things that are happening. But please, Public Health England, not to tell us to completely stay out of the sun. And while we're on the nanny state, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, the Evening Standard, front page, slow down. new speed limit for London, and my friend Sadiq Khan wants to introduce 20-mile-an-hour speed limits pretty much all over London, even on the big roads like the Embankment. Now, OK, there are times of the day, given all the cycle lanes that Boris put in, where you'd be pleased to go faster than 2 miles per hour. But why we have limits like 20? Yes, I know it's about safety. Look, I've been run over myself on a London road. I get the importance of safety, but you bring in a speed limit like 20, you apply it 24 hours a day, when actually for much of a day it is wholly, completely inappropriate. But it's for your own good, and government knows best. I don't really think so. Paul in Greenwich says to me by text, Nigel, it is clear exactly what she's doing. She's pushing for another referendum. She knows she will not get any of this through Parliament. Oh, that's not possible, Paul. No, because this is what she also told us in her speech to become the leader.
Brexit means Brexit.
Oh, dear.
The campaign was fought, the vote was held, turnout was high, and the public gave their verdict. There must be no attempts to remain inside the EU, no attempts to rejoin it through the back door, and no second referendum. There should be no general election until 2020.
I mean, it's great, isn't it? Actually, you may well be right, Paul. So she says that a Brexiteer will be in charge. That's no longer the case. She tells us no general election until 2020. Then she calls a snap one in 2017. And she tells us no second referendum or attempts to remain in through the back door. Paul, maybe your cynicism is right. I don't think she'd want to push us to a second referendum. But I tell you what I can see coming. What I can see is a bit of a crisis in Parliament coming in September, maybe into early October, as we head towards a crucial European summit on the 18th and 19th of October. And what I can see is this Prime Minister saying, unfortunately, we've run out of time. Brexit, of course, still means Brexit. And whilst we are going to take back control of our laws, borders and money, we've decided the best thing to do is to suspend Article 50 for a further 18 months. And I tell you what, if she does do that, then there'll be a lot more callers like Jacqueline from Worthing crying betrayal. In fact, that I think would be the straw that broke the camel's back. But for now, as they all go off on their summer holidays, why these Brexiteer Tory MPs are allowing the Prime Minister to do this is completely and utterly beyond me. They are putting the Conservative Party above the Brexit vote and above what the majority in this country voted for. That is my view. Lee is a new caller from, is it Holchurch, Lee?
Hi, Nigel. It is indeed, yes.
And where is that?
It's Essex, near to Romford.
Right, OK, we got you. So, Lee, are you OK with Mrs May?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm almost driven to despair, frankly, by the incompetence of the woman. I mean, you were just talking about U-turns. I mean, she's frankly committed a U-turn on virtually every single policy she's set since she became Prime Minister.
Is it incompetence, Lee? Is it incompetence, or is it actually just deception?
I think there's a bit of both. I think she maybe started out this process with the best of intentions. If I'm honest, if I'm honest, she clearly was never a believer in Brexit, but the old Brexit means Brexit speech very very quickly turned to Brexit means Remain.
Yep.
I mean, you now can't trust a single word that she says.
Yep.
But look, my question is really to you.
Yep.
I mean, you said recently that you were willing in March, if there was a leadership election or a vote within UKIP, that you would consider standing. Mm-hmm. I mean, is the time that something has to be done now? I mean, can we really wait till March? Because let's face it, it was you that won us this referendum. It's you that got us Brexit, and I thank you for that. I'm a big admirer of yours, but can we wait till March? I mean, none of the Tories want to challenge her now.
Lee,
you have to do it.
Lee, there is. Well, I can't challenge her, but I've said what I said last week, that I would seriously consider what I would do come March of next year, which is, of course, the crucial time. It's supposed to be Article 50 and everything else. Lee, I will tell you, I have been really, really thinking hard over the last few days what I can do to put on more pressure. I haven't yet reached a conclusion, but when I do, you'll be among the first to hear it. Lee, I thank you very much indeed for your call. On Twitter, May in charge of Brexit negotiations. Would you choose a vegan chef to make you a steak tartare dish? You want a strong opinion? OK. The saving grace for Britain would be Jacob Rees-Mogg, says Gavin from Hendon. I've listened to you over the years. I love your speeches, but not only have you not convinced me Brexit is a good idea, quite the contrary. My Remain stance has hardened since the vote, and there are many like me, I suspect, says Matthew. Well, Matthew, yes, maybe some people have hardened on Remain because Brexit's been carried out so badly. I mean, if you're telling me, Matthew, that you're more of an enthusiast of the European Union, given all the things that have happened over there since Brexit, I find that really, really hard to believe. Parties on the left and right growing rapidly across Europe, opposition to the project at all-time highs, authoritarianism from the European Commission telling governments what they can and can't do. It isn't a very attractive place, but we are handling Brexit terribly, and there is a complete lack of leadership. The comment we had earlier, you can love Trump or hate Trump, but he does get up and talk up America. He does say, you know, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, it's going to be great. He inspires a bit of confidence. This leader does not do any of those things. Mark is a new caller from Thornton Heath. Is it okay with May, Mark?
I don't think she's a good Prime Minister, and I'm a Labour supporter, and I'm a strong 100% Remainer, but I think she should be allowed to try and get the job done. It's very complicated negotiations. She's obviously had to go back from her original hard Brexit because of the general election. She lost a majority. She can't force that through. And there's all sorts of political realities within the Tory party, within Parliament, and within the country, and she should be allowed to get whatever deal she manages to get without people making obstacles. And then I trust in Parliament to decide whether it's good or not. I also think there shouldn't be a second referendum until at the end, you know, when the final deal comes to Parliament. If Parliament say, oh, I think we should put this back to the people, that's okay. But not now.
That would be a second. But that would be a second referendum, Mark, wouldn't it?
No, but it shouldn't be discussed now because that will undermine her negotiating position. If Parliament decided wants anything else involving the people, general election, anything else, that's fine, but not during your negotiations. I think there's too many people sniping at her. Yeah. She's an easy target. She's had to rein back on
everything.
What I would call hard Brexit because she's lost the majority in Parliament.
But Mark, she promised people that the Brexit department would be headed, that the whole thing would be spearheaded by somebody who campaigned for leave. And she's now gone back on her word, as Mark she does with virtually everything. I mean, as a Labour supporter, you must be thrilled with the way she's alienating Middle England.
I would prefer to have Rees-Mogg as Prime Minister, or even Boris Johnson.
Right.
They're easier to beat than Theresa May. I think Theresa May is in a very
Do you really think that?
Position.
Do you really think that? I mean, Boris Johnson does have quite wide public appeal.
Oh, he does, but he's got so many. I mean, if you look at Theresa May's background, you know, she has been a politician in all sorts of places, had a very long career, done lots of things without getting much egg on her face, other than obviously Windrush now. This is a really difficult job, which is why they haven't forced her out.
And finally, Mark, very quickly, if you're 100% Remainer, how do you cope with your leader who has been a Brexiteer since 1983?
I think if you look through his parliamentary record, around about 2011, 2012, he stopped opposing the EU and voting against them. And like a lot of Labour lefties, you know, I'm 62, I voted in the first city referendum. Loads of lefties have now stopped being anti-EU, as EU became better on the environment, better on workers' rights. And it's just another one of those.
And better at getting rid of nation-state democracy and behaving in an authoritarian way. I mean, surely these are all things traditionally the Labour movement would have been completely opposed to.
I think that's your sort of view of the EU. I've got a very different view. I mean, I may not think it's perfect. I don't think Parliament's perfect. But,
Well, at least in Parliament, Mark, you can vote for the bosses. You can't vote for Mr. Juncker before or after lunch. Mark, I thank you for your call. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It is now 7:46. Is it okay that Mrs. May now personally takes charge of the Brexit negotiations and demotes Dominic Raab to being the bag carrier? Well, from my perspective, it could hardly be worse. She's going to give away more and more and more, and maybe she'll say to us in a few months' time, I'm afraid it's all got rather difficult. We're going to suspend Article 50. I do not trust her. Roz on Facebook says she always seems to do exactly the opposite of everything she pledges to do. Roz, I agree with that, and I have to say, I just don't think she's truthful in any way at all. I thought the same when she was the Home Secretary. Stand up and the big conference speech, we're going to control immigration, we're going to do this, that and the other, and do absolutely none of it. Gareth says there must now be a leadership challenge. It's there, waiting for Jacob. Jacob is the only one speaking any sense. He needs to put words into action. Step forward, Jacob Rees-Mogg, please. Well, he did today express his displeasure. He did it, although, in his own very polite way. I think someone needs to stand up. One of these senior Tories needs to say, this is going wrong. This is a disaster. I offer my services. And even if they fall flat on their faces because they can't get enough parliamentary support, they will at least have tried to get us the Brexit that we want. On the 20-mile-per-hour story, John Dickinson says, I'm surprised you can actually never get over 5 miles an hour in London. It's always gridlock. John, I do get that point, but very often I drive around London and it might be 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, it might be 11, 12 at night, and frankly, if you've still got those 20-mile-hour speed limits there with cameras everywhere, frankly, it is ludicrous. There needs to be much more flexibility, I think, with these things. Bradley is a new caller from Hornchurch. Hi, Bradley.
Hi, Nigel. Thanks for taking the call. Pleasure speaking with you. I am a big fan of yours, but actually, with all of this, and I voted to Brexit to come out. I agreed with everything you said, the policies, the lot. But I'm more angry in all of this. First of all, my point is, Cameron walked away if it was going to be a Brexit vote because he didn't believe in it and he can't lead us through something he doesn't believe in. And then they put Theresa May in. So that's bizarre in itself. But what I'm most angry about is I'm angry with you. Because you're the person that started this, quite rightly, because I agree with you and I agree with why we're coming out and everything else. But they have made a shambles of it. And you've just made a comment about why don't someone stand up and put themselves forward. Well, you should be doing that.
I'm not a conservative, Bradley.
No.
I'm not a conservative, Bradley.
Just for the negotiations, they need a team of negotiators.
Bradley, listen, man. I promise you this, right? In the wake of the referendum, I spoke to several senior Tory Brexiteers as they were getting ready, to put the new government together, and then after Mrs. May had taken that position, and I said, Bradley, to all of them, if I can be of any use at all, I volunteer to do it. I wouldn't want paying. I would happily do it. And none of them would want to touch me. Well, not all of them, but generally, they would not, Bradley, want to touch me with a barge pole. There was nothing I could do. I would have done if I'd had the chance. I promise you.
Not have a public vote. Who leads the negotiations? You couldn't sit there and watch the European Union doing what they're doing. But you're happy to sit here after leading this campaign or starting this campaign. You're happy to sit there and watch Mrs. May and everybody else make a shambles.
All right, Bradley,
we look like idiots.
Bradley, what can I... You tell me what I can do and I'll go and do it. Tell me, what can I do?
Announce it on LBC. Have a public vote. Who should lead who are the European Union most scared of in this country?
Well,
you're the last person they want to see because they know you're not going to take.
Yeah, it'll be
the rubbish.
It'll be Boris or me, wouldn't it, Bradley? They're the ones they'd least like to see. Or unless we co-opted Donald Trump to be our negotiator for Brexit, I guess. Bradley, look, I understand your frustration. Millions of us are frustrated, but I've volunteered my services. They don't want me. I will keep making the case, making the argument, and perhaps getting more actively involved in the campaign because I, like you, think we're being let down like a cheap pair of braces. I'm absolutely furious at the way all of this is going. Bradley, I thank you. The Conservatives will become the new Liberal Democrats. The voters will ultimately have the final say. Hassan, they probably will. I still think that London, I think the London media, I think the London political class are underestimating how much anger there is out there in the country. And again, it's like last night. Bar one, it's all new callers to the show. Ethan is calling from Hitchin, a new caller. Hi.
Hi, Nigel.
So, is May okay with you?
No, she's not. Not really. I personally think she's a bit of a hypocrite. And I think the EU is laughing all the way to the bank at the moment with how incoherent everything is at the moment. I mean, I've been telling my friends, I said, I think Brexit could be an amazing opportunity if it's done right. The problem is, there's nobody there to do it, I don't think. I can picture in 50 years' time, in history books, them saying Brexit was a chance for us to change our fate, and it went over our heads completely.
Because of this leader?
Yeah, I think just, the lack of leadership.
Yeah.
There's no... I say this as a person who supports Labour. I can't really see Jeremy Corbyn showing that leadership either.
Well, for Corbyn, it's very tough, Ethan, isn't it? Because, there are a small group of the old Labour, socialists who were Tony Bennites, who always thought that the European Union would take away democracy. As Ben said, it would break the umbilical cord between the electors and the elected. But they're few in number, Ethan. Most of your party in the House of Commons are now Remainers.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I despise how they've treated Corbyn, especially recently a few years ago when he first became leader. I think that there is no party at the moment who has the power to actually stand up for Brexit.
Well, let me ask you, Ethan, you're a Labour supporter. Back in the 80s, I used to be a Conservative supporter, right? But we agree on this huge issue of Brexit and the future of our country. Do you think it's possible that at some point in time, you and I could be in the same party?
It's difficult, really, isn't it? Because we have
it's a tough question. I've just chucked a very tough question at you, but I just wonder. There comes a point when Brexit is bigger than the party that we support.
I have to disagree with you. I don't think Brexit is ever going to be the biggest. It's a big issue, but I don't think it would allow us to drop all the dividing lines between the different parties.
I wonder what could be bigger than who governs your own country and makes your own laws. I don't know. Ethan, great conversation. I've got time for one last quick call. Roy is another new caller from Eastbourne. Good evening, Roy.
OK, I think Theresa May taking control of the current negotiations is probably the best thing that can happen for the rest of us.
Right.
She's the last person in the country who actually thinks she knows what she's doing, and she's the last person in the country who can actually achieve anything. It's fine if she wants to sit in a little room in 10 Downing Street talking to herself, go off and see Mr Barnier and say, yes, we'll agree to that, come back with not a clue of doing it. The longer she does that, the better. Then people like yourself and others can actually get on with planning what we're going to do after Article 50, which is the only thing that we've actually signed up to.
Well, what if she delays that as well, Roy? I mean, she's pushed everything else down the road, hasn't she?
No, she won't get beyond conference. But if you want to know what people like yourself and the others should be doing, is head up an Article 50 group. Give us a panorama of what life will be like after Article 50.
A bit of a vision for the future. Roy, thank you. And I have to say thank you to all the callers tonight. Lots of new callers, nearly all new callers, and lots of you offering me personal advice as to where I've gone wrong and what I need to do in the future. It's good for me, this. It's very good for me. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'll be back here tomorrow evening in London. It'll be a hot London again.